Hi, I'm Ian Freeman, and I'm the host of Free Talk Live, one of the bloggers at freekeen.com, and you're watching the Low Country Liberty Report at lclreport.com.
This program is brought to you by freekeen.com. Freekeen.com features audio, video, and blogs chronicling the transition to a voluntary society. Freekeen.com also has comments and discussion forums so you can be heard. Freekeen.com.
Hi, this is Terry Lupo. Welcome to Low Country Liberty Report. If you're like me, you've kind of stopped listening to music and listen to talk radio. I figured that it's a good time to educate yourself when you're driving around in your car, and I've been listening to talk radio for a good 15 years. The problem was, I changed a lot in those years, and I wanted a more pro-liberty and pro-freedom view. Every time I turned on the talk radio, it was just a bunch of red versus blue, name-dropping, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary, blah, 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 stuff that means nothing in my life. I'd rather talk about freedom and liberty. Fortunately, I came across a show called Free Talk Live about 5 or 6 years ago now, and I've been a big fan ever since. What happened, though, is there started becoming a lot more pro-freedom podcasts you could download, but it took a lot of time to go and hunt them all down and put them all into your MP3 player. Fortunately, they put everything in one place. You can find podcasts like Stefan, you can find Total Liberty, Anti-War Radio, of course the Wheels Off Liberty guys, which you should be downloading them, they're very, very funny. And also Free Talk Live, which is kind of the flagship of the whole thing. I spend many, many hours making jewelry and in front of a bench, and I really appreciate that I can just tune in that network and I'm off to, and the work's done for me and I can just sit and listen. So if you're at work and you want to listen to a stream of, and not have to go get a bunch of podcasts, you should listen to this. I'm going to take you over to Ian Freeman. You probably know him from Free Talk Live as being one of the hosts, but he's also a blogger at freekeen.com, which is a great place to get news, by the way. And this interview happened about 6 months ago at PorkFest, where the network was just getting off the ground. So let me take you there. I'm here with Ian Freeman with Free Talk Live. And Ian, I'm curious, I wanted to ask you some questions about independent media.
Sure.
And what gave you guys an idea to finally branch out on your own and do your own radio show?
Well, I was working for Clear Channel down in Sarasota a few years back, and at that time there was a talk station that had, well, it was a rock station and flipped to talk, and it had been all syndicated, which is a product coming in from another market, basically. So there was no locally originating programming on the station. And so after a year of the station being syndicated, we decided that it needed some local flavor. So we came to the station management with the idea that, well, we'll do this local show for you. You don't have to pay us. We'll just do it because we wanted to get our foot in the door of doing talk radio, and of course it's a dollars and cents game. Since they didn't have to pay us and they benefited by having a local show, they said yes. And I'd obviously been working at the station for years at that point, so I had the rapport that was necessary to make something like that happen. And so Free Talk Live was born.
And as far as these days, people entering the podcast market, I noticed that you've been trying to help them with your new Liberty Radio Network. I've seen a lot of really good podcasts come out. How do they find you?
Well, most of the Liberty Radio Network product I kind of already knew about when the network launched, and I just reached out to them and said, well, I'm doing this project with the Liberty Radio Network and wondering if I can use your podcast. And so, of course, most people said, absolutely, no problem. And as far as others finding me, there are some people that will find an email on libertyradionetwork.com and they'll shoot me a pitch, hey, can we get our show on your station? Most of the time it's from somebody that doesn't really understand what Liberty is or what the Liberty Radio Network theme is. They haven't really taken any time to do research to see what this is all about before they pitch their show. So their show doesn't really fit with the format, and I'll just have to apologize to them and say, sorry, we're not interested in your program. But occasionally somebody will hit us with something interesting. Recently we had the Wheels Off Liberty podcast. That's one of our.
I love that show.
Aren't they funny? They are so funny.
Show. I wish I could find them. They're great.
They are.
What a great fun.
That was a chance thing for me because they had approached Mark. And of course, Mark does, my co-host on the show, he does the sales side of the program, and they had approached him from a I don't know, for whatever reason, they'd asked him about an interview, about having us on their show. And so, sure, I mean, why not? We get to promote our show. We went on their show, and it was during the interview that I realized, wow, these guys are really talented. I mean, they are funny, and I, you know, we don't have that kind of sense of humor on Free Talk Live, just because I'm just not that funny. But they are, and I heard it, and you know, you can hear good talent when you hear it. At least I think I can, and I liked what they had to say, and so I said, well, you know, can I put you guys on the network? And sure. And so they've been on ever since.
Very brilliant. I mean, to have a blue-collar market like that and to promote liberty in such an environment like that, I just think it's great. I love that, you know, put liberty in lots of different flavors.
Yeah, you know, you've got on one end of the, well, we had Lew Rockwell's podcast on.
Yeah.
He's off at this time because he hasn't done a new show in a month, so I can't put a show on that's not producing. But, you know, you've got that kind of highfalutin academic flavor on one hand, and then, you know, the down-home redneck flavor on the other hand. I think it's great.
And I just saw that Penn Jillette plugs Keen on...
Well, freekeen.com is my blog site, and we, of course, are promoting... Here we're at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, where we promote people moving to New Hampshire for liberty, but within New Hampshire there are a lot of choices as far as where you could end up, and so obviously I live in Keene, and I'd like to encourage other liberty-minded people to come there, and so freekeen.com is a blog site where we can focus on Keene activism and have different people in the Keene area putting up blogs, and it's worked really well. It's been online for about 2 years now, and apparently Penn Jillette has found out about us through the Boston Globe article that was written not too long ago about Keene activism. And yeah, he's got his own YouTube channel, crackle.com I think is the original source of the channel, but he mentioned Keene a few times in some of his videos, which is great.
That's pretty cool. Let me ask you one other thing. I'm starting to do a series on asking people what was the final breaking point that they decided to move and pack up their whole life and come to the Free State Project. Did you have any sort of breaking point, or did it slowly happen?
Well, I would have to say the answer there would be there was no point at which anything broke. I mean, I fell in love with liberty years ago and just started to do whatever it is that I felt like I could do to promote the ideas of freedom. Unfortunately, without a real activist core group to back you up and to help you with that and to do different things, there's just not much that you can do. It's like spinning your wheels, and that's what I felt like I was doing down in Sarasota, Florida, which is where I was born and raised. It was pretty much just me kind of leading whatever liberty activism was happening. I was kind of the source and the startup. I mean, I'm oversimplifying here. There were a handful of other folks, but most of those people are now here in New Hampshire. So when I first heard of the idea of the Free State Project, having failed enough at doing libertarian activism down in Florida, when I heard of the idea to get together with other like-minded people, it was like immediately I said, wow, that's for me, but I was a little concerned about the whole cold factor. I mean, being Florida born and raised, and as you can see, there's not a lot of whole, anything on my bones. So I was a little concerned about the temperature, and that's one of the biggest objections, of course, that you get from people when you talk to them about moving to New Hampshire. But I got over it. I figured that if it's liberty, if I've got a chance at being free, then it's worth it to be a little bit cold. And you know what? It turns out the cold's really not that big of a deal anyway. There are heaters, and it's not like you have to stand out in it for extended periods of time. So, and warm clothes and everything. So it's actually worked out fairly well. But the moment I heard it, I knew that was the idea, that was the winner. Getting liberty activists together was going to be the key to achieving liberty in our lifetime. And I think that being here at PorcFest is a way to confirm that that's absolutely the truth. These are the most amazing people I've ever met.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this is one great resource if you are lazy like me and don't feel like downloading 20 blogs. There's also a couple other blogs that have added since this interview. Liberty Conspiracy, which is probably already on there, which is Gardner Goldsmith, great. You've probably seen some of my interviews with him. And also the guys from Free Minds TV also have a radio show in case you've never heard it. And that's on there as well. It's a good introduction to liberty if you're just kind of trying to wrap your brain around the ideas. As always, this is Terran Lupo. Good hunting.
Mark Edge with Free Talk Live. You can see us at Free Talk.